My fiancé said, "My pride matters more than your feelings." I said, "Then keep your pride." She said it in front of my family, thinking I'd apologize to save the wedding. I canceled the venue, returned the ring receipt, and let her pride explain everything in court. Original post: I'm Grayson, 34M. My fiancée, Marissa, 30F, and I had been together for 4 years, engaged for 1. We lived in Raleigh, North Carolina, in a townhouse I had rented before we met. The lease was in my name, always had been. I work as a project manager for a commercial flooring company, not flashy but stable. Marissa worked as a senior stylist at a salon called Ivy and Ash, and she cared about appearance the way some people care about oxygen. Not just clothes or makeup. Image, reputation, how things looked, how people talked, how a table was set, how a photo was cropped, how a story sounded when she told it later. At first I thought it was confidence. She walked into rooms like she belonged there. She had opinions. She was sharp. People listened when she talked, but after a while I realized it was not confidence. It was pride. The kind that cannot apologize without bleeding. The kind that would rather burn the house down than say I was wrong. Small things showed me first. If she forgot to pay a bill, she said I should have reminded her better. If she was late, traffic was impossible, even when Google Maps showed green the whole way. If she snapped at a waiter, she said the waiter had an attitude. If she insulted me in front of friends and I brought it up later, she said, "You're too sensitive." Everyone knew I was joking. That sentence became familiar. Everyone knew I was joking. Nobody laughed except her. The breaking point happened at my parents' house on a Sunday evening. My mom had made dinner because my younger sister, Tessa, had just gotten accepted into a nursing program in Charlotte. It was supposed to be a small celebration. My parents, Tessa, my brother Dean, Marissa, and me. Nothing dramatic. Just baked chicken, salad, grocery store cake, and everyone embarrassing Tessa in the loving way families do. Marissa was already irritated before we arrived because I had asked her not to announce our wedding details at dinner. We were still arguing over the budget, and I did not want my family pulled into it. She wanted a $14,000 floral installation. I wanted to not spend a used car on flowers that would die in 12 hours. That was apparently me not supporting her vision. Dinner was fine for maybe 20 minutes. Then my mom asked if we had picked a final wedding menu. Before I could answer, Marissa smiled and said we would have, but Grayson gets nervous anytime numbers have commas. My dad chuckled politely because he thought she was teasing. I didn't. Marissa continued, "Honestly, I've had clients with smaller budgets show more excitement than my own fiancé." That landed. The table went quiet. I said, "Marissa, not here." She raised her eyebrows. "What? It's true." I said, "We can talk about it at home." She put her fork down and looked at my mother. "See, this is what he does. He shuts down whenever I say anything honest." My sister Tessa stared at her plate. Dean looked at me like, "Do you want me to step in?" I shook my head slightly. I said calmly, "This dinner is for Tessa." "Stop." Marissa laughed. There it was, that cold little laugh. Then she said the sentence I still remember exactly. "My pride matters more than your feelings, Grayson. I'm not going to sit here and pretend you haven't embarrassed me through this whole wedding." The room froze. My mom's face changed first, not anger, disappointment. That hurt worse. I looked at Marissa and said, "Then keep your pride." She blinked. "What?" I stood up. I said, "Keep your pride. I'm done competing with it." She rolled her eyes. "Don't be dramatic." I took my keys from the counter. She said, "You're really walking out?" I said, "Yes." She said, "Over one sentence?" I said, "No, over the fact that you meant it." I apologized to Tessa, told my parents I loved them, then I walked out. Marissa followed me into the driveway. She was whisper yelling because even angry she cared about the neighbors hearing. "Grayson, get back inside. You are making me look insane." I said, "You're doing that." She grabbed my arm, not hard enough to hurt, hard enough to control. I looked down at her hand. "Let go." She did. Then she said, "If you leave, don't expect me to forgive you." I said, "That's okay." I drove home alone. She got a ride from Dean's wife later. I know because Dean texted me. You okay? I replied, not yet, but I will be. That night I sat at the kitchen table and opened my wedding folder. Venue, photographer, DJ, florist, caterer, cake, hotel block, honeymoon cabin in Asheville. The venue deposit was $2,800. Gone. Photographer refunded half. DJ kept $300. Cake deposit was $150. The florist, thankfully, had not ordered anything yet because I had refused to sign the final invoice for the $14,000 installation. I sent cancellation emails. Short, clean, professional. Due to a personal change in circumstances, the wedding scheduled for September 21 is canceled. Please confirm any refund amount and close the contract. By 100 a.m. It was done. Then I took the ring box from the bedroom drawer, placed the receipt inside it, and put both in the safe. The ring had cost $7,400. I had financed part of it like an idiot because she said anything smaller would make her feel like an afterthought. That should have been enough warning. At 2:17 a.m., she came home. She saw me at the table with my laptop closed. She said, "Are you done throwing your tantrum?" I said, "The wedding is canceled." For the first time that night, her pride cracked. Not enough for an apology, just enough for panic. Update 1: 4 days later, the next morning was chaos. Marissa did not believe me at first. She laughed and said, "You can't just cancel a wedding because you got embarrassed at dinner." I said, "I didn't cancel it because I got embarrassed. I canceled it because you told me your pride matters more than my feelings." She said I was angry. I said, "I know." She said people say things. I said honest people apologize for them. That was when the yelling started. She told me I was humiliating her, ruining her reputation, making her look abandoned. She said everyone at Ivy and Ash knew about the wedding. Her clients had asked about it. Her coworkers had planned a shower. I said, "You can tell them the truth." She said, "The truth makes me look bad." I said, "Then maybe don't do things that look bad when described accurately." She threw a couch pillow at me. Not dangerous, just childish. I picked it up and put it back. That made her angrier. By noon, the flying monkeys arrived. Her best friend Brielle texted me first. "I know Marissa can be intense, but canceling a wedding overnight is abusive." I replied with one sentence. "Ask her what she said at my parents' dinner." Brielle said she told me you stormed out because she joked about money. I sent her the exact quote. "My pride matters more than your feelings." Brielle read it. No response. Then her cousin Paige called from a blocked number. I answered because I was expecting the venue. Paige said, "Real men don't punish women for having emotions." I said, "Real partners don't humiliate people at family dinners and call it honesty." She said, "Marissa is devastated." I said, "I'm sure." She said, "So fix it." I said, "No, short word, clean word." She hated it. That afternoon, Marissa posted a black and white Instagram story of her hand without the ring visible. Text over it, "Some people would rather destroy love than swallow their pride." I almost admired the lack of self-awareness. Almost. My sister Tessa replied to the story. "Didn't you say your pride mattered more than his feelings at my celebration dinner?" The story disappeared in 10 minutes. Marissa came downstairs holding her phone. "You're letting your family attack me." I said, "I didn't tell Tessa to reply." She said, "You poisoned them against me." I said, "You said it in front of them." She stared at me like witnesses were some unfair trick I had arranged. That night she refused to sleep in the bedroom. She slept on the couch dramatically with a blanket pulled up to her chin like a painting of betrayal. I slept fine in the bedroom. That offended her too. On day 3, she changed tactics. Soft voice, coffee made, hair down, my favorite blue sweater. She sat across from me and said, "I think we both got carried away." I said I didn't. She swallowed. "Can we at least pause the cancellations?" I said, "They're already done." Her face hardened. "You had no right." I said I was paying for most of it. She said it was my wedding too. I said, and my marriage too. I'm not entering it like this. Then came the first fake crisis. She said she might be pregnant. I looked at her. We had not been intimate in nearly 6 weeks because every argument ended with her saying she couldn't feel close to someone who made her smaller. I said, "If you are, we'll handle that responsibly." She blinked. That was not the reaction she wanted. She wanted panic, reversal, begging. I said, take a test, I'll wait. She said, not while you're acting like this. I said, then let me know when you have results. She stormed upstairs. No test ever appeared. On day 4, I called the landlord and asked what it would take to end the lease early. He said 2 months' rent or a replacement tenant. That meant $3,600 if we could not find anyone. Expensive. Still cheaper than marrying Pride. Update 2, 3 weeks later, I had moved into a 1-bedroom apartment in Cary. Small, plain, no accent wall, no gallery mirror, no velvet chairs chosen for the aesthetic. Just my desk, my bed, my coffee maker, and silence. The townhouse was still being processed with the landlord, but I had moved my essentials out after Marissa started doing what she called showing me consequences. The first consequence was calling my workplace. She asked for my manager, Curtis, and said she was worried about my mental state because I had suddenly canceled a wedding and abandoned the home. Curtis called me into his office. He looked uncomfortable, which was impressive because Curtis once fired a guy during a tornado warning and still looked bored. He said, "Is everything okay at home?" I said no, but it is handled. Then I showed him the cancellation emails, the text messages, and the screenshot of Marissa saying, "You're going to regret making me look stupid." Curtis leaned back and said, "Do you need us to block her number from reception?" I said yes. Done. That was it. No drama. A week later, she showed up at my apartment building. I had not given her the address. That mattered. She stood outside the front entrance with a white gift bag and called me 11 times. I watched from the lobby camera app because the building manager, Elaine, had already flagged her after I gave the office a heads up. Elaine called me and said, "There's a woman here saying she's your fiancé." I said, "Ex-fiancé." Elaine said, "Thought so. She has that energy." I almost laughed. Elaine told her she could leave the bag or leave the property. Marissa left the bag. Inside was the ring box, empty, and a note. "You don't get to discard me and keep what symbolized us." I had the receipt. The ring had been purchased by me, insured by me, and paid mostly from my account. But I was not about to play hallway courtroom with Marissa. I emailed my attorney. Yes, I had one by then. After the workplace call, Dean convinced me to at least consult someone. The attorney's name was Veronica. She charged $375 for the consultation and then $900 to send a formal demand letter regarding the ring and no contact boundaries. Worth it. The letter stated Marissa needed to return the ring or its appraised value, stop contacting my workplace, stop appearing at my residence, and arrange through counsel for any remaining shared property. Her response was immediate, not to Veronica, to my mother. Marissa texted my mom a long message about how I had become cold and materialistic, how the ring was emotionally hers, and how my family's lack of support showed they never loved her. My mom replied once, "Marissa, I cared about you very much, but I heard what you said at dinner. Pride is a lonely thing to marry." Then she blocked her. I printed that message and put it in the folder because honestly, it was perfect. The ring issue escalated fast. Marissa claimed she had lost it. Then she claimed it was stolen. Then she claimed I had taken it from the townhouse before moving out. Unfortunately for her, she texted Brielle that she was keeping the ring because he doesn't deserve the satisfaction. Brielle, finally tired of being used as a backup hard drive for lies, sent me the screenshot. She wrote, "I'm sorry, I should have stayed out of it earlier." I replied, "Thank you." That screenshot became important because Marissa filed a police report saying I stole the ring. 2 officers came to my apartment on a Tuesday evening. I invited them into the lobby, not my unit. I showed them the receipt, insurance documents, attorney letter, text history, door camera footage of her leaving the empty ring box, and Brielle's screenshot. One officer looked at the other. Then he said, "This looks civil, not criminal." I said, "That's what my attorney said." They left. Marissa texted from a new number 20 minutes later. "You really made me look like a liar to police." I replied once, "Do not contact me again." Then I blocked the number and forwarded it to Veronica. The cease and desist went out the next morning. By then, I was not sad anymore. I was tired. Sadness has waves. Tiredness has weight. Still, life got better in quiet ways. I started running again. Badly, slowly, like a man being chased by his own choices. I got promoted to senior project manager after closing a delayed hotel renovation contract that had been haunting our company for months. I bought a used leather chair from Facebook Marketplace for $120 and placed it by my apartment window. No one told me it didn't match the room. No one rearranged it for photos. No one called my taste embarrassing. It was ugly. It was mine. Final update: 3 months later, the ring issue ended in small claims court. Technically, Veronica said it was not worth the emotional cost. The ring had resale value but not full retail. I had already lost wedding deposits. I could walk away. But I was done letting Marissa turn my silence into permission. So I filed, not for revenge, for clarity. The hearing took 26 minutes. Marissa arrived with page and a folder that looked impressive until she opened it. Most of it was printed Instagram posts about emotional abuse, screenshots of quotes about narcissists, and one blurry photo of her wearing the ring at brunch. The judge asked a simple question: "Do you currently have the ring?" Marissa said, "It was given to me as a promise." The judge repeated, "Do you currently have the ring?" She said, "I don't see why that matters when he broke the promise." The judge looked tired already. I provided the receipt, financing agreement, insurance policy, attorney demand letter, the empty ring box photo, and Brielle's screenshot where Marissa admitted she was keeping it. The judge read the screenshot out loud. Keeping the ring because he doesn't deserve the satisfaction. Marissa's face turned red, not embarrassed, angry that her own words had betrayed her. The judgment was simple. Return the ring within 7 days or pay $5,200, the appraised resale value. She returned the ring through Veronica's office 4 days later. No note, no apology, just the ring. I sold it 2 weeks later for $48.50 and used part of the money to pay down the remaining cancellation costs. I used $300 to take Tessa and my parents to dinner because her nursing school celebration had been ruined the first time. We went to a local Italian place in Raleigh. No speeches, no wedding talk, just food, laughing, and my dad pretending he knew how to pronounce Nakai. That night, I realized something. Pride had taken up more space in my life than Marissa ever did. Her pride dictated where we went, what we posted, how I dressed, how I spoke, what I was allowed to question, what truths could be said out loud, and which apologies were required from me but never from her. When I removed her, I removed the audience her pride needed, and without an audience, the performance collapsed. The last time I heard from Marissa directly was through email. Subject line: "I hope you're proud." The body said, "You got your money, you got your family on your side, you got everyone thinking I'm some monster. I hope your pride keeps you warm." I stared at that last line for a while. Then I realized she still did not understand. This was never about my pride. It was about peace. I did not reply. A month later, Brielle told Dean that Marissa had left Ivy and Ash after several clients heard some version of the ring story. I don't know what happened there. I did not ask. I did not celebrate. That part matters. People assume when someone hurts you, peace means you want to see them fall apart. I didn't. I wanted her out of my house, out of my finances, out of my workplace, out of my mother's phone, and out of my nervous system. That was enough. I'm doing well now. The apartment in Cary still has the ugly leather chair. I have added a plant that I am almost certainly overwatering. I go running 3 mornings a week. I see my family more. I sleep better. I also started seeing someone named Laurel. She is 33, works in medical billing, and has the rare ability to say I was wrong without acting like the words are made of glass. The first time she apologized for being late, just plainly, no excuse, no performance, I almost didn't know what to do with it. She said sorry. I planned badly, that's on me. I said it's okay, and that was it. No trial, no defense, no emotional invoice later. just an apology. That is when I realized how badly pride had warped my idea of normal. The lesson I learned is this. Pride can look like confidence from a distance. Up close, it is fear wearing expensive clothes. It is the fear of being wrong, the fear of being seen clearly. The fear that if someone holds up a mirror, there might not be anything noble looking back. You cannot build a marriage with someone who treats accountability like humiliation. You cannot love someone enough to make them humble. And you cannot keep shrinking just so their pride has room to stand. I do not hate Marissa. I hope one day she learns that apologizing does not make you small. But I also hope she learns it far away from me. Because I finally understand something I wish I had understood before the ring, before the deposits, before the dinner at my parents' house. Some people do not want love. They want an audience. And the moment you stop clapping, they call it betrayal. If you've dealt with someone whose pride ruined a relationship, comment below and tell me whether Grayson handled it right or went too far. Please subscribe, like, and share this story with someone who needs to hear it. And let me know if you've faced something similar or what your opinion is.